seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10.
When Apollo 11 was launched in 1969, it was seen around the world as an incredible and unprecedented moment. The rocket ship took 3 Americans from Florida to the moon. It was one of the great human endeavors of all time, celebrating bravery and the United States' vast technical skill.
Yes, indeed. You got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes.
But what would be the step beyond the moon? 3 years later, the people at NASA announced their grand vision, a manned voyage to Mars. And they needed a space plane that would pave the way. That machine was on nobody's drawing board. They needed a rocket ship that could push 4.5 million pounds away from Earth into an orbit 150 miles high. They needed a spaceship that could maneuver up there and sustain its crew for weeks in the hostile environment of space.
We're back with you visually, looking through camera Alpha.
Roger.
They needed it to be able to survive a fiery re-entry into the atmosphere and then glide home safely and intact.
Main gear touching
And they
out.
wanted this craft to be reusable, to return to space again and again. They needed the Space Shuttle. Never before have science and technology come together to develop something so amazingly complex. Never before have men and women created anything even remotely like the Space Shuttle.
It's really hard to believe that a shuttle launch is a man-made event. The flame and the exhaust plume is so bright, it's like looking into the sun. The power of the engines creates a vibration and a shaking of the earth.
When a ship takes you into that environment and takes that good care of you and brings you back home in great shape, it's more than just a hunk of metal and bolts.
It is such a tremendous amount of energy, yet the limits within which it must fly are very, very narrow. So you've got something that's powerful, but delicate at the same time.
A fleet of these machines has flown more than 325 million miles in Earth orbit, placing an incredible 9,000 tons of satellites and communications equipment into space. 230 astronauts have taken the ride, all televised in scenes so completely familiar that the thrill and real danger of space exploration is almost forgotten. But in fact, there is much about the Space Shuttle that we do not know at all. We become accustomed to seeing the shuttle up there, seemingly suspended, hardly moving. Yet the astronauts are traveling around the Earth at 18,000 miles an hour. And as they go about their work, they can glance up at 16 sunrises in a single day. There are 4 orbiters in the NASA fleet: Columbia, Discovery, Endeavour, and Atlantis. And in spite of the tragic loss of their sister ship, Challenger, they have carried on. In almost 100 trips into Earth orbit, they have become true pioneers.
If you look over towards the RMS, you can see the city of Houston.
Beneath the shining bright skin of the orbiter is an astonishingly compact and ingenious world. Up front on the top level is the flight deck, the bridge of the ship. If Captain Kirk were aboard, this is where he'd be. Here are the flight controls for maneuvering in space and for landing the ship later like an airplane. The computer consoles hold programs unique to each mission. On the middeck, the crew eats and sleeps and relaxes when there is a moment to relax. Below decks is where they put their stuff. Most importantly, the lithium hydroxide canisters, which filter carbon dioxide from the air. The airlock leads from middeck into the cargo bay. It is from here that the astronauts suit up before they step out into the payload bay to go to work. Looking under the hood at the rear, you'll find 3 huge engines that help lift the machine into orbit and 2 engines that let it maneuver once it's up there.
Flight control power off. Or pulse, DDUs as required. I guess we could turn.
The shuttle's historic design triumph is its ability to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere intact, from orbit to Earth in 45 minutes.
Columbia, Houston, the winds at Edwards remain light. You have a go for the burn.
Roger, go for burn.
To break out of orbit, the shuttle must allow gravity's steady pull to take over. Having turned the ship around entirely, the pilot fires the orbital maneuvering engines in a powerful burst. Slowing, the shuttle drops into low orbit. Now the crew has just 30 minutes before they encounter a wall of fire.
When you hit the Earth's atmosphere, you're doing Mach 25 or about 18,000 miles an hour. And the way you slow down is by pancaking or sort of speed braking the orbiter into the Earth's atmosphere. What that does, though, is generate a tremendous amount of heat.
5 seconds. 3, 2.
At 400,000 feet, the orbiter hurtles into Earth's atmosphere. The nose cone and leading edges are quickly glowing at temperatures hotter than molten lava. As the ship screams down into the thicker atmosphere, it collides with trillions of tiny gas molecules. Striking them so hard, it creates a glowing, ionized plasma that swirls around the shuttle.
And I can see the plasma just building and collapsing in a bright white flash down the middle of the vehicle.
This plasma is crazy.
It's like little pieces of vehicle flying off in front of us there.
The shuttle emerges from its fiery cocoon. On the last leg of its journey, it is falling home.
1.2 Gs, folks. Descending through 76,000 feet at 200.
At 100,000 feet, air data probes are deployed to measure airspeed. When subsonic speeds are reached at about 50,000 feet, the shuttle pilot takes manual control and has 5 minutes to land an unpowered vehicle coming in at almost the speed of sound. Any astronaut qualifying to pilot the shuttle must log hundreds of hours in various training aircraft. Shuttle veteran Eileen Collins is the first woman to have done just that. And now, with over 1,000 practice approaches under her belt, she is qualified to become commander on shuttle mission STS-93.
Tower NASA 913, after this pattern, we'll be requesting departure to the local area.
The shuttle is a difficult aircraft to fly, especially having flown military aircraft or other civilian aircraft. It doesn't have engines when it comes back to Earth. It has a very what we call high wing loading. It has the short, stubby wings, and I guess you could say it is a low lift-to-drag ratio. It sinks like a brick.
You're going pretty fast. We're 100,000 feet or so, which is 3 times higher than you typically are in an airliner, but lickety-split. I mean, really, really fast. Because it's a glider at this point, it's a 250,000 pound glider with no go-around capability, then it's critical that it be exactly right the first time around.
Without engines, gravity gives the pilot only one chance to get it right.
It's a highly modified Gulfstream II. Flies almost exactly like the Space Shuttle. The same descent rate, the same type of drag. Just prior to landing, you're descending on a 20-degree glide path, which is about 6.5 times greater than what you would descend at in a commercial airliner. It's very, very important training for shuttle pilots.
Velocity about 3,000 miles per hour.
The shuttle announces its arrival with 2 sonic booms as the leading edge of wing and tail break the sound barrier. Aided by a microwave scanning beam landing system, the pilot zeroes in on the longest and smoothest landing strip in the world. It's 17,000 feet long, yet the difference in elevation from one end to the other is less than 1/10 of an inch. It actually conforms to the very curvature of the Earth.
Down, 80, 70, 60. On, 230 knots, 25 feet. Keep it coming down to 20. Into 10, looking good. 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 200. Touchdown.
Touching down, the first spaceship ever designed to fly like a plane has landed. As the astronauts adjust to gravity, the orbiter recovery convoy goes to work. For 4 hours, the vehicle sits cooling on the runway. Toxic fumes from the hypergolic fuels must be vented.
Safety things?
Time-sensitive payload offloaded. And the shuttle itself must be readied for a return to orbit.
Why does the shuttle have so many computers on board? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
Return to Orbit is sponsored in part by the complete line of 1999 Lincoln automobiles and by Pepsid AC. You can be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
Gosh, you know, I just went to use the phone.
You say once you got back, your wife was gone.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What?
Have you checked the hot enchilada?
Oh, no. Millicent gets terrible heartburn.
Not this time.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts.
Millicent? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables.
For a Pentium 2 processor?
If you looked into your local carrier's phone lines, what time period would they place your company in? Why live in the past when local's future is right through here? On net, where local, national, and global all flow over one network owned by one company. Oh, and did I mention it'll save you money? OnNet from MCI WorldCom.
Thursday at 10:30 Pacific. Discovery News takes you live to the shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral as an American icon returns to space. In 1962, President Kennedy banned John Glenn from space travel in hopes of preserving a bona fide hero. 36 years later, he's going back. Still a hero, still made of the right stuff. John Glenn, a pioneer, returns live Thursday at 10:30 Pacific, only on the Discovery Channel.
Everybody has a different picture of how they want their financial future to look. That's why every Waddell & Reed financial plan is different. Each one personalized, customized to give you an appropriate combination of mutual funds, insurance, retirement funds, college funding plans. If it's time for you to begin filling in the picture of your financial future, now's the time to talk to your hometown financial advisor from Waddell & Reed, the people with a plan for you. Check the white pages for the Waddell & Reed office nearest you.
I gotta go to work.
To the men and women at Edison, protecting your service from natural disasters is more than just a job.
Don't worry, we'll save Daddy a seat.
It's a commitment that weathers hardship, hard work, and hard choices.
I'm scared.
Yeah, we got lights.
Thank you, Daddy.
Southern California Edison, the power behind peace of mind.
Why does the shuttle have so many computers on board? If the main computer goes down, the space shuttle is unflyable. For that reason, they have 4 standby computers, a 5th in Overwatch, and a 6th stored in a locker as a spare. The shuttle needs only one of these computers to fly, but that would be 0 redundancy. Now, back to return to orbit.
Within 10 hours of the shuttle's landing, a team of 90 people at the orbiter processing facility are inspecting and repairing the wear and tear of a 4 million mile journey. The orbiter has about 6 million parts, and they're all scheduled to go back up in 90 days.
Every landing when a bird comes in, we check for meteor strikes, scratches that may occur on those 6/10,000ths. It'll be about the size of your hair. The end of your hair, if you looked at it, that's the size that we look for on the window.
The same precision goes into checking the 3 main engines. Each main engine is 14 feet long. Weighing in at over 3 tons, it generates the same amount of energy as 23 Hoover dams. These high-performance engines are operated at 104% of their rated power level. To maintain them through up to 55 flights, NASA had to create a room full of one-of-a-kind tools. It's a wonderful example of the old saying, the right tool for the job. The borescope is one of them. The engine's turbopump is cast as an almost solid piece, so the borescope is used to peer inside to check for cracks on the blades that must revolve at 36,000 revolutions per minute.
That's what I'm thinking. We can find cracks that are tight as 1,000ths, and that's what the borescopes are used for. If something was to happen, they could develop into a catastrophic event, but we're trying to find those.
The aft fuselage is where the energy for taking off and coming home originates. Everything back here must be perfect. In orbit, there will be no way to pop open the hood and take a look. Through these feed lines, powerful turbopumps draw liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen at a rate that would empty a swimming pool in 20 seconds. These 2 cryogenic fuels, maintained at hundreds of degrees below zero, are forced together in a combustion chamber just 10 inches across, where they explode to produce 470,000 pounds of thrust. So that the engine is not destroyed by heat, it is frozen by the liquid hydrogen flowing all around it. As the engine fires, it jumps instantly to 6,000 degrees, reaching full thrust in only 4 seconds. The entire surface of the shuttle is a masterpiece of thermodynamic design. The underside of the fuselage is covered with a jigsaw puzzle of 35,000 individually fitted silica tiles. Each tile is numbered and cut to conform exactly to the contour of the skin. The tile material conducts the heat of re-entry away from the orbiter so efficiently that after coming out of a 2,000-degree test furnace, it can be picked up by the bare hand in just a second. 335 man-years had gone into installing the tiles by the time astronauts Robert Crippen and John Young took the first shuttle ride all the way home.
Swing arm, the orbiter access arm.
Well, we really had no idea what to expect, and we went to all these meetings where people said the tiles would come off. But it was really this absolutely magical piece of machinery. It maintains a temperature that's outside the vehicle. On the nose cone, it's 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside the vehicle, the temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The thermal tiles maintain that. And so the hard work of the people that put those tiles on, it paid off.
Hey, Dina, I think it's time to kill the GPC.
GPC 1's going down.
52.
7, 6. In training, they pound on us incessantly. But after a while, you even get used to an environment where there are 20 or 30 malfunctions an hour coming at you, and you get used to it.
Discovery Houston, main engine limits inhibit, stuck in the bucket.
Simulation training allows astronauts to maintain a high level of confidence under an even higher level of stress. They spend a lot of training time being shaken up in this big box, living through complex scenarios of disaster.
When you start getting additional malfunctions, when you have many to look at the same time, you need to set priorities. Look at those problems and say which one of these is most important and which one of them is going to kill me first.
That deal a lot with the physics of the situation, because engines can only do so much, the trajectory can only do so much. You can't fool Mother Nature, and in the end, Isaac Newton always wins, and what Newton's law says we can do is what we can go do.
But bodies in motion has a whole new meaning in zero-G.
Everything's going its own direction. It's got its own little velocity. So you're surrounded in space with all kinds of objects which are going their own way. It's incredible the freedom that zero-G, that spaceflight is.
A brief sense of that freedom can be achieved in a special plane, the KC-135, sometimes called the Vomit Comet. Flying up and down parabolas, it sends its passengers into free-falling weightlessness.
As you push over, if you push over at the same accelerated rate as gravity is pulling you down, you get a sense of weightlessness. Well, that only lasts 30 or 40 seconds per parabola, because obviously you've got to pull the nose of the airplane back up, or you ruin your whole day. You don't get a feeling of falling. It doesn't feel like you're falling. It feels as though you're inside a room or a vehicle and there is no gravity. Somebody has suddenly hit this anti-gravity switch and you and everything around you begin to float. That's the feeling that you have.
In space, that feeling lasts for more than 30 seconds. Because up here, the shuttle, traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, is carefully balancing between the force of gravity that is trying to pull it back to Earth and the centrifugal force working against gravity. The shuttle is actually falling around the face of the Earth, and the continuous free fall creates the sensation of weightlessness for those inside. The logic is indisputable, but it doesn't make it any easier to live with.
I have been designed by Earth's environment, the atmosphere, the gravity, and the rest of it. The free fall condition is totally different. The body is grabbing an environment it was never designed to perceive, and it doesn't always get it right. I got in a sleeping bag, and the bag dictates that that's down. If you put the bag here, that's down. If you hang the bag on the ceiling, that's down. Because for 60 years, I climb in bed, that's down. You climb in a sleeping bag, and your body says, we've always slept on our side, and we're going to sleep on our side tonight. That's the way to sleep. Okay, you win. Pillow. Side of the head, strap it on. You are on your side. Do you like that? Yes. Off to sleep.
Why would astronauts run an aircraft's engines in reverse? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
One anniversary card with 2 tickets to India inside, $3,500. Caravan to the Blue City, $64. Boat to the Palace on the Lake, $28. 25 years. More better than worse. Priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Platinum MasterCard, with a high spending limit for the things that matter.
You can feel it start to burn all through here. All you can think about is getting rid of it quickly. I even tried Zantac 75, but it didn't work fast enough. Finally, I asked my doctor, and my doctor said Mylanta. Fast-acting Mylanta was made to work fast where heartburn hurts most. Soothing, on contact. It's so fast. My doctor said Mylanta.
And if you suffer from gas, there's a Mylanta just for you. Mylanta Gas.
MCI 5 cent Sundays.
I need passion, depth. I need intensity.
MCI 5 cent Sundays. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
Think big. Think Shakespeare. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
5 cents a minute every Sunday.
I ask for an actor, they send a comedian.
Call 1-800-Sundays to become an MCI customer.
Again?
Call 1-800.
In our lives, we sometimes only get one shot and only seconds to make our move. Sunday, as victims stare death in the face, the everyday person goes that extra mile.
It's just an adrenaline rush. You know, you're trying desperately to save somebody's life. It's working.
What do you do when you're trapped, clinging for your life? Stories of endured success. Do you have what it takes? Survive. Sunday, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on Discovery Sunday. Only on the Discovery Channel. Why would astronauts run an aircraft's engines in reverse? During shuttle training, a modified Gulfstream jet's engines are often run in reverse to simulate the steep rate of descent during a typical shuttle landing approach. For the latest news on John Glenn's upcoming mission, visit Discovery.com. Now back to Return to Orbit.
In the payload processing facility, a massive strongback crane moves cargo in and out of the shuttle's payload bay. Roughly the size of a great blue whale, the bay can be reconfigured for any array of mission hardware. This payload can be anything from a military satellite to a highly complicated scientific laboratory. Some payload is controlled from the shuttle, some from the ground through sophisticated telemetry.
Here at Space Lab Mission Operations Control.
Each breakaway unit represents years of work on Earth. And payload specialists on board train for months to execute the work of teams anxiously monitoring their projects in space.
And we're now seeing the highly magnified image from the Wisconsin instrument as it is trained on this Galaxy NGC 1068.
GPS CDR, go ahead. Left keyboard.
To guard the delicate cargo against contamination, strict cleanroom conditions are enforced throughout the payload facility.
Item 50. And execute.
Below decks, miles of wires and sensors are checked, and then checked again, and again. The shuttle is now ready for its final configuration in the Vehicle Assembly Building, a mammoth structure 43 stories high that once housed its predecessor, the Saturn V. Here it is raised upright. The orbiter is, after all, a rocket, and it can only take off while standing on its tail. Once upright, the orbiter is carefully mated to its massive external fuel tank. The process is so delicate that it takes 36 hours. The tank will hold 500,000 gallons of highly explosive fuel. The slightest snag would mean disaster. Flanking the external tank are two solid rocket boosters, the SRBs, 150-foot-long tubes of solid, supercharged fuel encased in steel. The SRBs have been tested and engineered to provide 85% of the force required to lift the 4.5 million pound shuttle off the pad. They are the most powerful rockets ever built. The slowest part of the orbiter's 3 million mile journey is the first 3 miles. At 1 mile an hour, the aptly named crawler is the largest and possibly the slowest vehicle in the world. A clumsy, lumbering beast that can stop on a dime. Once at the pad, the shuttle's external tank is filled with cryogenic fuels. It is now a volatile rocket on which 7 people will ride. In the hours before the launch, the pad is cleared of all but the most essential personnel. Among them, members of the ICE team.
We've only got 2 hours to look at every square inch on this vehicle and pronounce it ready for launch. We are well aware that there's over 2 million pounds of solid rocket fuel in the boosters and over 500,000 gallons of cryogenic fuel in the external tanks. So all the team members are volunteers.
After all the planning and designing and building and hoping for the best, the success of the journey finally comes down to the people who take the ride.
We're at the 195-foot level of the tower. Crew module's right here. The external tank is not more than 20 feet to this side, and there's a solid rocket booster that's loaded and ready to go that's right next to it. So we're right in the middle of it. You're one of a dozen people that you're out here, and everybody else is 4 miles away.
In the firing room, 300 technicians and engineers prepared to launch as systems power up.
That's 200. I guess it's because of orientation.
TLS, what is it? TLS, go. Yeah, 534, pick up by the clock. Okay, TLS. There you go. Okay, we got you now.
Here while you're waiting for it.
At this point, you're kind of numb to the whole thing, I think. You're just excited a bit and looking forward to getting in and strapped in and settled down. It's a bit uncomfortable like this. Kind of laying on some valves in the back of the suit. But it's not too bad for the first hour and a half or two. As you approach a little after that, you start getting a little uncomfortable with sometimes back pain. So the quickest way to get comfortable is to launch, you know.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll try to fend off the dogs a little bit. All right.
There is no actual button that someone pushes. It's operating the keyboard to set up the ground launch sequencer to take us through that final launch phase and launch the vehicle.
In this pyramid of reaching the final go for launch, everyone is polled formally over a network, and that makes the person really think about it.
NASA Test Director, this is ICE Team, Channel 232. We're complete on the FSS 215-foot level. Everything looks fine.
If I'm comfortable that we've conducted this process in an orderly manner and that there's nothing out there that's bugging anybody, then it's fairly easy to give the go-ahead to launch.
T-minus 9 minutes. The ground launching sequencer is activated. During every moment of the orbiter's journey, over 10 million sensors and instruments located throughout its structure are feeding its computers vital flight information along 2,000 miles of wire. By now, the computer programs that will launch and control the flight have rehearsed the mission more than 10 times. And for the past 3 years, programmers have been at work refining the programs, modifying over 500,000 lines of instructions.
T-minus 1 minute.
31 seconds before launch, the computers take over the countdown, making over 4 million decisions every second.
Endeavor's computer is now controlling. 7, 6, main engine start, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavor, observing the changes of planet Earth.
The main engines create acoustic shock waves so powerful, their vibration would be enough to shake the shuttle apart before it ever got off the pad. To dampen these waves, at the exact moment the engines reach full thrust, 300,000 gallons of water are released into a trench below the shuttle. The vapor and exhaust fumes blow out more than a mile. As the shuttle accelerates, massive stresses build up on its light aluminum frame. To prevent it from disintegrating, the main engines must be throttled back until the shuttle reaches thinner air in the upper atmosphere. When pressure reduces, the shuttle opens throttle, rocketing toward space at 3,000 miles per hour. 2 minutes from launch, the SRBs burn out and fall toward the Atlantic Ocean.
Good solid rocket booster separation confirmed.
For performance nominal.
"52 miles up, the sky goes quickly from blue to jet black. Traveling at 17,000 miles per hour, the roar and tremendous G-forces of launch suddenly vanish. This is MECO, main engine cutoff. As the spent external tank falls away, the astronauts are coasting in the silence of space. The orbital maneuvering engines are fired, settling the shuttle into a circular Earth orbit. Now the real work begins.
What was the rather unprophetic name of the first orbiter? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
We asked elementary school teachers to try Motrin IB instead of Advil.
This is the place for headaches.
I got a real whopper of a headache right now.
We thought this would be the perfect place to try Motrin IB.
I get aches and pains all day long.
Nothing, not even Advil, has been proven to work better than Motrin IB.
Okay.
Doctors have prescribed the medicine in Motrin IB more than any other pain reliever.
My headache is gone.
Feel better. Beautiful.
Now it's Motrin IB, spoken here.
I could teach another 20 years this stuff. Maybe not.
MCI 5 cent Sundays.
I need passion, depth, I need intensity.
MCI 5 cent Sundays. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
Think big. Think Shakespeare. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
5 cents a minute every Sunday.
I ask for an actor, they send a comedian.
Call 1-800-Sundays to become an MCI customer.
Again?
Call 1-800.
Thursday at 10:30 Pacific. Discovery News takes you live to the shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral as an American icon returns to space. In 1962, President Kennedy banned John Glenn from space travel in hopes of preserving a bona fide hero. 36 years later, he's going back. Still a hero, still made of the right stuff. John Glenn, a pioneer, returns live. Thursday at 10:30 Pacific, only on the Discovery Channel.
Everybody has a different picture of how they want their financial future to look. That's why every Waddell & Reed financial plan is different. Each one personalized, customized to give you an appropriate combination of mutual funds, insurance, retirement funds, college funding plans. If it's time for you to begin filling in the picture of your financial future, now's the time to talk to your hometown financial advisor from Waddell & Reed, the people with a plan for you. Check the white pages for the Waddell & Reed office nearest you.
Hidden for centuries, the treasures revealed, czars and princesses, fought and betrayed to hold. Coming in November, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the legacy, the treasures, the passion. Witness the treasures of the czars, the treasures of Russia, coming exclusively to the Rio.
What was the unprophetic name of the first orbiter? It was supposed to be named Constitution, but the Ford administration, bowing to pressure from science fiction fans, ordered it named Enterprise, after the ship of the same name in the Star Trek series. Ultimately, it did not boldly go where no man had gone before, never becoming a fully operational shuttle. Now, back to return to orbit.
Payload bay doors. When you are in attitude, it should be about 2.5 minutes.
Once in orbit, the shuttle crew opens the payload bay doors. Open to space, the cargo bay becomes the workplace of the orbiter. Some payload work is accomplished without ever leaving the cabin. You simply look out the rear window and activate the remote manipulator system, a 50-foot remote-controlled arm. The crew must release it with great precision so it can enter its own orbit. The pilot must carefully fire the reaction control thrusters to get out of the way, and the crew must brace themselves. In orbit, the shuttle's pilot slowly maneuvers the ship along 3 axes using a combination of the 44 reaction control jets and the 2 orbital maneuvering engines. All orbiting maneuvers must be precisely calculated to control trajectory, carefully balancing one jet thrust against another. Inside the shuttle, an atmosphere identical to that on Earth is maintained and filtered every 7 minutes. The payload bay doors double as giant radiators, and inside, the temperature is a comfortable 68 degrees, despite outside fluctuations of 500 degrees Fahrenheit as they travel between night and day. Below decks, oxygen and hydrogen are chemically combined in fuel cells to generate electricity with a useful byproduct, pure water. Some is jettisoned into space. The rest is used by the crew for washing and drinking. Everything up here must be practiced. Astronauts have even had to learn how to eat.
Today we're going to do a food evaluation session for a couple of the astronauts, allowing them to try our EDO, Extended Duration Orbiter Rehydratable Food Package. Okay, what we recommend on opening the flip-top cans on orbit is when you get ready to open them, you have to be careful in zero gravity. You have to be sure and rock it gently, because if you jerk this lid off, you will sling product around the cabin.
Are you doing something there?
A tortilla can be flung like a frisbee,
Did you check the message here?
but a floating bean presents a different problem.
Photograph.
In the end, what you can't find or eat, you have to vacuum up.
Over your left shoulder there, Ron.
Houston, Columbia, you got 2 good APUs and number 3 waiting for Tane.
Though a vast bank of computers monitor and control the flight, each major system is being monitored at Mission Control in Houston by its own group of specialists. The orbiting crew will rely on them to provide the big picture.
First row of consoles, people are going to be mostly worrying about the trajectory of the orbiter, where it's going, and if we're making the places in space we've got to get to. The second row of consoles is mostly going to be worrying about the systems on board the spacecraft. The third row is mostly going to be concerned with the command of the vehicle, the flight director, and overall decisions, and the Capcom communicating with the crew.
Discovery, we like your solution.
In a launch emergency, their aim is to get a response back up to the crew in less than 15 seconds. They can do this because of a complex constellation of 6 tracking data relay satellites in geosynchronous orbit. They send millions of bits of information back and forth between the shuttle and the hub of communications in White Sands, New Mexico. These satellites, which were in fact deployed by the shuttle itself, can relay the entire contents of a 20-volume encyclopedia in a single second.
Sean, okay, 51, the secondary seal. The secondary seal pressure will stay low like that, negative, because it's a Block 1 engine. It doesn't have a transducer in that location.
Most of the time, everything goes very well. And, but then there are those moments where suddenly, and very unexpectedly, you're in a situation where your performance has ultimate consequences.
Flight fighter, you copied. We do need a restart.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Copy that.
The first night that we had grabbed the Hubble telescope, and we had problems folding up the solar array.
One side of it is bent way over.
That is affirmative.
And we had a situation where NORAD reported that we'd had a breakup of an object in orbit, and there was a piece of material headed our way. If we attempted to maneuver out of the way, there wasn't much fuel margin to complete this mission. And there was the potential when we fired the engines that the solar rays would snap off, maybe even meaning that the Hubble would never be able to be made functional again. My job that night was to get the team working together. Let's get a good track on the object, let's get a good track on the orbiter, what are we going to go do, what's the safest configuration for the Hubble if we have to do this? And I remember in the middle of it thinking, gee, we're barely breaking a sweat here.
GPC-4 has failed to sync. We will work with the procedure.
What is the ACRV, and what was its equivalent on the rockets of the 60s? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
Return to Orbit is sponsored in part by MCI 5-cent Sundays. Pay the least on the day you call the most. And by MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
Looks like Taz just got his AT&T phone bill. Taz, don't you make a lot of calls on Sunday?
Yeah, Taz call.
Then use MCI 5-cent Sundays. It's just 5 cents a minute every Sunday. AT&T charges 3 times as much. Taz, let's call 1-800-Sundays. Become an MCI customer.
One anniversary card with 2 tickets to India inside, $3,500. Caravan to the Blue City, $64. Boat to the Palace on the Lake, $28. 25 years. More better than worse. Priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Platinum MasterCard, with a high spending limit for the things that matter.
It flies away from false boundaries.
Through the rare air and blue altered sky.
Silent and proud. It rides on the glory of the world-waking day.
The GE people who service jet engines share a common passion for their work.
Genius of steel. Web of power.
And none express this more poetically than the GE technicians in Nantgarw, Wales.
It was all shining and bright.
Spinning in time.
And I heard in the turning
the whisper of truth. Working in wonder.
Humbled in detail.
I stand
spellbound.
In the beauty of perfection.
In GE service sites all over the world, the result of all this pride and passion is simply jet engines that run like pure poetry.
And so in the legend of Blue Fields, the sleep of the innocent lay undisturbed and just.
I'll be able to look into the night sky and see our work up there with the Big Dipper, the moon, and the stars.
I got to see a man walk on the moon. My kids deserve to see something as inspiring.
It is huge, like a mountain or a skyscraper, but also huge like the wheel, the atom, penicillin, and electricity.
Из космоса границы стран неразличимы. И для того, что мы делаем сегодня, 16 стран должны иметь один такой взгляд на нашу планету.
We owe this to all the great minds that came before us, to Copernicus, Newton, and all the great minds still to come.
NASA and its worldwide partners will soon launch the first stages of the International Space Station.
Thursday at 10:30 Pacific. Discovery News takes you live to the shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral as an American icon returns to space. In 1962, President Kennedy banned John Glenn from space travel in hopes of preserving a bona fide hero. 36 years later, he's going back. Still a hero, still made of the right stuff. John Glenn, a pioneer, returns live. Thursday at 10:30 Pacific, only on the Discovery Channel. Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, grotesquely disfigured, hideously misshapen, he both horrified and touched those he met. Now, for the first time, see the actual plaster casts made from his body over 100 years ago and examine his deformed skeleton as doctors attempt to re-diagnose his tragic disorder. Don't miss the true story of the Elephant Man on Sidetrack next Monday at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on the Discovery Channel. What is the ACRV and what was its equivalent on the rockets of the 60s? The Assured Crew Return Vehicle is the means of escape from the International Space Station in an emergency. Gemini had ejection seats for low-altitude escapes, and Mercury and Apollo had an emergency escape tower that could pull free of its carrier vehicle if trouble developed during the launch. Now, back to Return to Orbit.
Years of planning have gone into every spacewalk, or extravehicular activity, EVA. It's been practiced on the ground, in water, and through computers. But it all comes down to one person in a bulky suit at work in the void of space. The spacesuit is not a one-size-fits-all piece of design, and fitting an astronaut into one is an exacting task. The suit is adjusted not only for the astronaut's body, but for the mission at hand.
All right, let's start lifting. Ready? Yep.
Lift. Story Musgrave knows how to wear this $10 million suit like few others. He spent over 26 hours in it on some of the most challenging EVAs ever attempted, including the groundbreaking Hubble telescope repair mission.
So when you're pressurized in the suit and you're in underneath, buried in the bilges of the telescope, reaching way up here to get some little connector and you can't move anything, and the lights go out, the sun goes down. I mean, it's like being held in a crevice in a glacier. But you like it.
Hey, sorry. Yes, there was 42 turns it took to get this guide set out. I counted. Believe me? No? I think it's going to be all right.
On the Hubble mission alone, 80 specialized tools were developed, ranging from electric screwdrivers to specialized Hubble hardware to make the repairs possible.
Mark, they should come out 7.5 to 9 turns. And of course, watch for the washer.
Through such efforts, unimaginable a few years ago, NASA's long-term goal of extending our reach to the planets beyond is now closer than ever. We're getting there because of missions like Hubble, because of the precision docking developed by the shuttle, and because of long-duration space flights carried out with the Russian space station Mir. And because we managed to make the impossible seem routine. In the past 30 years, times have changed in space, yet the pioneering spirit still goes on. A certain amount of personal gallantry has always been required to go into orbit. Senator John Glenn orbited the Earth 3 times in his Mercury capsule back in 1962. His return to orbit 36 years later will take place on shuttle mission STS-95. He has trained vigorously for the job, and since he will be, at 78, the oldest person ever to go into orbit, his battery of medical tests will tell us much about the future of living in space. After 20 years of work in space, the shuttle fleet is now poised to begin the grand mission for which it was first envisioned, to help construct a platform that will lead on to Mars. The shuttles are being modified for the new job. Their cargo bays are being reconfigured to carry aloft, in sequence, the 1 million pounds of material that will be fashioned into the International Space Station. The job will call for 1,100 spacewalks and will take 5 years. From this orbiting platform in the sky will be developed new arenas of knowledge. From here, at some point in the future, the first manned trip to Mars will begin. Shuttle, in its long and honorable role as a space truck, that was indeed the first step